Hey everyone, this is Schism here. I got a 2,500 point, my Daemons versus Warriors of Chaos. Now, starting off here, this is my new addition to this army. These slimy slug tongue things I'm using as Beasts of Nurgle. I would figure I'd give them out a try. What I had to drop for this was, from my original list, was a solo Beast of Nurgle and a 33-man Plague Bearer unit and a unit of Furies with Mark of Nurgle. But instead, that bought me 8 Beast of Nurgles, as you can see right here. So starting off on my opponent's far right, he has 6 Ogres with Chaos Armor and great weapons. They have the Mark of Nurgle. Next to the left of that, he has 20 Warriors, Sword and Board with Mark of Tiznich. And the left corner there, he's got a level 3 with a Dispel Scroll, Talisman of Endurance, and a Charm Shield. For spells, he rolled on Fire, and he rolled Fulminating Flame Cage, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and the Always Faithful Fireball. In the middle there, that big beefy red guy is his Demon Prince. He's rocking Chaos Armor, Sword of Might, Enchanted Shield, Mark of Nurgle, and Soul Feeder. So he's a grounded prince, but he's pretty beefy. He's got a 1-up save, I believe, or a 2-up save, and he's got some Soul Feeder for regaining wounds, and he's got a Sword of Might, so he's strength 7. So he's there to dish out some pain and give out his leadership to the surrounding units. To the left of that, he has 20 warriors with Mark of Nurgle. And in that unit, he has a BSB with an Ogre Blade, Scaled Skin, Dragon Helm, and Mark of Nurgle for some extra combat punch. To the left of that, he has a Chimera with Regeneration. To the left of that, he's got 3 Dragon Ogres with additional hand weapons, and rounding out his forces on the far flank, he has 2 Chariots with the Mark of Nurgle. Starting off with my forces on the far left, I have 3 Plague Turkeys. To the right of that, there's 3 more Plague Turkeys. I have a unit of 8 Beasts of Nurgle, and to the right of that, I have 45 Plague Bearers. And in there is a BSB with a Razor Standard and Locus of Virulent. So they got Poison 5 up and Armor Piercing. And for a Magic Banner in that unit, I have the Lichbone Pennant, which gives them Magic Resistant 1. So combine that with their ward. Generally, they'll have a 4-up ward against magic missiles, making them extra resilient. To the left of that, I have a level 4 Demon Prince, Chaos Armor, Wings, Sword of Swift's Slaying as the 25-point gift, a Mark of Nurgle, and Incorporeal Strike I rolled up for the 50-point gift. So, whereas before he was really a bad matchup against his Demon Prince, now I ignore his armor save, and I'll get rerolls to hit against him, which is always nice. So it's not so bad of a matchup now. Granted, I'd rather have an extra wound or a 2+ armor, but no armor saves allowed against him makes him extra killy. I was rocking Death, and I rolled up Soul Blight, Doom and Darkness, Curse of Lampshade, and Spirit Leech. So some nice combos in there. Soul Blight's always nice. Doom and Darkness is always great, especially if you have Spirit Leech and some Lampshade action. To the right of that, I have 5 Furies with a Mark of Nurgle, and rounding up my forces on the far right, this big brute here is a Soul Grinder, and he's got the Mark of Nurgle, and he's got that Iron Claw there. My turn 1, I win it. And I move my Soul Grinder up as fast as I can around the flank here. Now, I fully know that he's marching up towards Ogres, but I know that's a really bad matchup, but I'm just going to probably try and get behind him, dance around him, and keep him occupied. And my army moves up like so, and my Furies switch over to the middle to do some harrying in the center of the field here. And there you can see my other unit of Turkeys crushes that little watery pea hole and moves up. And the Winds of Magic, I roll a 4, so that means I have -1 to my ward save here, which is not good, but at least I'm not in combat, and there's very few, if not any, ranged threats besides a fireball there. So really not too bad this turn, but it's never fun to have a debilitated ward save. In the magic phase, I throw 3 dice at Doom and Darkness on his unit with his sorcerer here, and I miscast it irresistibly. And I roll up the large template on myself, and I do not cascade, thank the Lord, with my 500+ point Demon Prince and my Army General and my level 4. So I avoid that, and in the backlash I make all my ward saves on the unit there, so I don't actually lose anything. Warriors of Chaos turn 1, his Ogres just kind of move around to face their front towards my Soul Grinder. And his army in the center moves up like so, and his Chariots move up a little to get a better charge off on these Plague Turkeys if they're still there. He goes ahead and throws his dice to get rid of Doom and Darkness, and I dispel whatever else he has left in that magic phase. So my turn 2 would take my Soul Grinder, and I just move around. I march up behind him on the other side here, so I'm out of his charge arc. I take my Demon Prince with his fly move, and I fly behind his entire line, so if he wants to devote anything to taking out my Demon Prince or facing off against him, he's going to have to turn one of these units around, which is A-OK in my book. And it puts me in great range to do any kind of sort of spell mischief I want to do. And my lines move up cautiously like so. And I take my Plague Turkeys here on the far left, and I charge into his Dragon Ogres. Now, I don't know what kind of fight this is going to be, but I know I'm toughness 5 and -1 to hit, so I'm expecting to win this combat and put him on a leadership test, and these Dragon Ogres are well out of his general's range. And his BSB's range, I believe. So, if I can put him on a test, hopefully I'll be able to get rid of him, but we'll see. And my Furies move up here to troubleshoot these chariots on the far left because they're going to be a nuisance. In my magic phase, Khorne's Wrath decides to go off and doesn't affect anything but these Nurgle warriors, and it managed to fell 2 of their number. And I cast Doom and Darkness on this unit once again. And then I go ahead and I cast Curse of the Lampshade on his sorcerer. And I managed to do 2 wounds against him. I just couldn't slip that last wound through him, which is not good. It would be great to get his magic out of the way early in the game, but wasn't meant to be. And then this pillow fight happened over here. I don't know what kind of horrible display of rolling actually we had to endure here, but I only managed to do 1 wound to him with all my attacks, and he only managed to do 1 wound to me with all his attacks. Now, I wasn't banking on this. I was hoping I'd be able to break him, or at least do enough damage to where I could win a combat and put him on a test, but the test never happened here. So, I believe, yeah, I did put him on a test -1, but he managed to stick it. Leadership 8's not too bad for a Dragon Ogre. And if you can see right here, the horrible mistake that I made is now that I didn't break him or run anywhere, his Chimera is right there to charge me in the next turn. So his turn 2, he does Dispel Doom and Darkness once again. And as far as his movement goes, he abandons my Demon Prince in the back there. He was trying to butt hug his Demon Prince, and he just marches forward towards my lines. His Ogres with great weapons reform to face my Soul Grinder once again, and you can see there he took his Chimera into the side of my drones. Now in the magic phase, he threw something first, and I got rid of it, and then he threw Flame Cage, and I threw pretty much all the dice I had. I don't remember how many dice it was, but I threw at least equal to him, and I got a wizard level up on him, but I couldn't stop the Flame Cage from going through. So now this unit that I would love to take into his Warrior of Chaos with Sword and Board and Marcus Nistar, I'm pretty confident they'll be able to take out that unit just by numbers and attacks alone, and Poison 5+ always help. But now I have to deal with Flame Cage, and I was able to avoid the initial D6 Strength 4 hits by making some ward saves, but I don't want to take 45 Strength 4 hits. It's just bad news. So this Gorby's Chariot actually risked the dangerous terrain test, and he slammed into my Furies. He only managed to do 1 wound with the impact hits in the Charioteers and the Gorbies, but however, that was enough to put me on a test, and Leadership 4, I believe, on the Furies just means pretty much they're going to pop. And they did. And he just reforms to face the front because he assumes his Chimera in the flank is going to be enough to do this, and he didn't want to overrun into the side there. And he was partially right. He does manage to do 5 wounds to my Plague Drones. I do 5 wounds out of nowhere to these Dragon Ogres here. And make a note here that the Chimera did all 5 of those wounds. The Dragon Ogres really had no part in it. But, however, it was enough to win the combat. And he put me on a test, but I only failed the test by 1, so I crumble 1. My turn 3, I take the Plague Turkeys that were not in that horrendous combat, and I charge his Gorby's Chariot on the far left. Now, I don't expect to win this. I just expect to hold him up for a few turns, hopefully as many turns as it takes for the game to end. I just don't want all these Chariots in my main lines. I take my Soul Grinder, and I just move slightly to the left here just to get out of his line of sight of his Ogres. I go and I decide to butt hug his Demon Prince once again and hopefully be able to get some magic off to deal with him. I would rather not risk hand-to-hand combat, but as much as I think I do have an edge there. And I don't want to move my Plague Bearers here, so I just let him sit there. And my Beast of Nurgle, I'd love to take him into the Nurgle Warriors there. However, I really don't want to commit them because then he'll be able to get a dual charge in with his Demon Prince and his Nurgle warriors or his Market Sinews warriors. It's just not a good place for him. So in my magic phase, I roll a 10, so I get +1 to my ward saves, and I am quite relieved about that. I managed to get off Doom and Darkness on his Demon Prince Lord here, and then I managed to get Spirit Leech off. I think I threw 5 or 6 dice on it, and he draws his Dispel Scroll. So what could have been a good opportunity to take this Demon Prince out of the game, unfortunately, the Dispel Scroll had foiled my plans. So my Soul Grinder decides to vomit all over these trolls with whatever kind of flame tongue, puke, saliva, magic missile, whatever he does, and he kills a whole entire ogre, which is always nice. I don't really use that ability much often, but the Soul Grinder is really a horrible matchup versus the ogres. He's only got 4 attacks, and he can't Thunderstomp it, and that makes him utterly useless. I mean, he's really good at stopping infantry blocks in their tracks, but not really ogres. He'll just lose the combat, and I'm not looking forward to that. To finish off the combat over here, he managed to do the last wound, but that's all he does is 1 wound with all these attacks he has. However, he does put me on a test. I do a wound to him, but he's got a flank, so he puts me on a test, and I do fail it by 1, so that nasty little Plague Drone Turkey unit there manages to pop. In the combat over here, much to my surprise, I managed to do 2 wounds to this Gorby's Chariot, and he does no wounds to me. He breaks in combat, and I run him down, which is pretty amazeballs. Was not expecting that. His turn 3 takes his ogres and he reforms in round to face my Soul Grinder once again. He takes his Nurgle warriors and goes into my Beast of Nurgle, and he takes his Gorby's Chariot that was free from the Furies, and he charges the side. His Demon Prince moves up once again, and his warriors, Sword and Board, move up also. And here you can see his Gorby's Chariot made at the side of my Beast of Nurgle. He flies his Chimera to the rear to get a rear charge in, and his Dragon Ogres move up slightly. Now in the magic phase, I try and stop the spell again, but he gets Flame Cage on again. So there's not much I can do here. It's a really bad situation. I really need to plug up this unit, and I realize that it's in my turn. It's going to be now or never. But luckily, I did roll that 4+ ward save, and I do have the Lichbone Pennant, so I'll be taking those magical strength 4 hits from the spell here. I will be getting a 3+ ward, which is a pretty good situation. For a crappy situation, that is. And the combat here, I did 2 wounds to the Nurgle Warriors. I did 1 wound to his Gorby's Chariot, and he does 4 wounds to me, and I roll horrible on the break test. Obviously, I didn't win this one, mainly because of his ranks and his banners. And yeah, so I pop a further 5, so that's not good. So my turn 4, I take my Nurgle Warriors, and I did not contact the Demon Prince. He's not in this combat. I just go after his my Plague Bearers, excuse me, and I just contact his Warriors here, which I'm pretty confident about this matchup. However, all those Strength 4 hits and all those ward saves I took. I only lose 6 of the Plague Bearers. I'll take it. And I take my Demon Prince and I shove him into the rear, since he seems to be like to sniff butt all game. So he's going to sniff the Warriors of Tizniche in the butt now. And you can see my Soul Grinder moved around all the way around the other side of the Ogres with great weapons. My Plague Turkeys decide to head back into the battle and make their presence known. In the magic phase, I do get off Soul Blight on these Market Tizniche Warriors, so now what I thought I could win is now going to be a cakewalk, I think. And my Soul Grinder here, just his spitty attack on these ogres, and managed to do 5 wounds to him, which is pretty amazing. In the combat here, he only kills 4 of my Plague Bearers, so I find myself quite fortunate. And the Demon Prince hauls off and does, I think I only did 2 wounds to him with my Plague Bearers, which is really horrible. Yeah, and then my Demon Prince goes and kills the other 8, I think, mostly with Thunderstomps. I think I rolled a 6 for none of the Thunderstomps. So he breaks from combat, and he flees, and I catch him with my Demon Prince, and I do not move my Plague Bearer unit because I don't want to take another round of Flame Cage, especially since I don't have that ward save. Now, this is with my 5 Beasts of Nurgle. This is what I rolled for the number of attacks I got. It was absolutely deplorable. However, in this round, they managed to do more wounds than they did in any other round. I don't really understand how that works. I managed to kill 5 of these Warriors of Nurgle. He does 2 wounds to me, And I crumble a further 2 from the break test I had to take. In this combat, no, actually, Warriors of Chaos turn 4, he takes his Demon Prince and he charges into my Nurgle Warriors, contacting my BSB. His Dragon Ogres add their presence to the mix here against the Beasts of Nurgle. These poor Beasts of Nurgle are taking a Chimera in the rear now, who just charged. He's got a big block of Nurgle Warriors with a BSB. Now he's got Gorby's Chariot in the flank, and now he's got Dragon Ogres in there as well. So, yeah, they're not long of this world, one would think. So he reforms his Ogres with great weapons once again to face my Soul Grinder. In the combat here, I completely whiffed with my attacks. It was pretty disgusting. I wanted to cry, but I didn't because I don't cry. However, he does 5 wounds to me, and I take another test, and I lose 3 more wounds. So what was once a mighty and fierce Beast of Nurgle unit is slowly getting whittled down, mostly by tests. In the combat here, I don't manage to do anything to his Demon Prince, and he does 6 wounds to my Plague Bearers. But I have ranks, I have BSB, and I have all this good stuff, and my general's around, so I stick around. So with much taunting from my opponent, I think I got blinded by the heckling. I just figured this unit's weakened enough where I'm just going to take my Soul Grinder in and hopefully be able to win combat, break him, and chase him down. So I take my Soul Grinder in here, much to my dismay. I take my Plague Bearers and I add their combat res to the side here. It'll give me a charge, a flank, and I'm hitting the vulnerable Dragon Ogres, which is nice. However, landing in the forest, I do take a dangerous terrain, so I take a wound on one. Magic phase, I get Doom of Darkness off once again on his Demon Prince here. And this combat here, I completely whiff. I try to get his champion to make an initiative test, but he passes his initiative test, which is unheard of for an ogre. And he does no wounds to me because I'm quite resilient. In the combat here with the DP, I managed to do 2 wounds to him, but he smartened up and started attacking my BSB, and he did 1 wound to my BSB. And over here in the combat, I do 3 wounds to his Dragon Ogres, so he's only got 1 left. He does 3 more wounds to my Nurgle thing there. I end up winning this combat, I believe, because I get a charge and a flank, and we did an equal amount of wounds, but everything he has here sticks because his general's within 12 inches. Turn 5 here. Now, the only thing that really happened was he did 2 more wounds off my Beast of Nurgle, and everything else for the Warriors of Chaos turn just stayed the same here. My turn 6. I take my Demon Prince into the Warriors of Nurgle unit. It's kind of a last-ditch effort to soak up some points. Hopefully my Beast of Nurgle will be able to survive the next 2 rounds, because if they don't, I'll be in some serious trouble. As far as points-wise, this game is pretty close. I managed to get Soul Blight off on his Warriors of Chaos here. And in the combat over here, his Ogres do 1 wound to me. I do 2 wounds to him, but he's got a banner and a musician, so we tie, and then I lose because of the musician. I take a test, and I fail by 1, so I take an additional wound. And he allocates all his attacks on the BSB and finally kills my BSB, and that's pretty bad for me. That means I lose my Poison 5+ and my Armor Piercing, which is going to make it a lot more of an uphill battle to wound this Demon Prince. And his Thunder Stomps goes against the unit, and he kills 1 more of me. So I take my Demon Prince, and I issue a challenge, and his champion accepts, so his champion slides down to meet me. I kill his champion quite heartily. He does 3 more wounds with his Chaos Warriors unit, and mostly his Chimera is doing the big beat down here. He does 3 more wounds to my Beast of Nurgle. I do 1 more wound to his Dragon Ogres, and he does 1 wound to my Plague Turkeys. And then in the combat over here, I make his champion take an initiative test, and he fails it, and I take my 4 attacks that automatically hit, and I miss with 2 of them. Oh, I actually failed to wound with 2 of them, so I can't even kill the champion. He's sitting there with 1 wound. The guy behind him has 1 wound left. And then I go to take my break test, and what do you know? You can see him right there, boxcars. So my Soul Grinder goes pop, and that's a huge chunk of points, and that's just how the toilet flushes sometimes. Turn 6, the final turn for the Demon, or the Warriors of Chaos here. His Demon Prince hauls off and kills a mighty 1 Plague Bearer with all of his efforts. And in the center here, his Chimera hauls off and finally does the last 3 wounds to my Beast of Nurgle. So in the last turn when it all counted, yeah, the Beast of Nurgle dies. He survived all the other attacks from all the other units attacking. I allocated everything I could, including that Beast of Nurgle, onto the Dragon Ogre to kill the Dragon Ogre. See if I can get those points. I can maybe swing this game closer to a draw. But I only managed to do 2 wounds, so that Dragon Ogre is sitting on 1 wound left. Otherwise, the Exalted BSB has to challenge the Demon Prince. My Demon Prince goes and completely annihilates him. I mean, his Exalted Champion has a 1-up save, but I ignore all armor, so I'm pretty much swinging at a naked Chaos Warrior, which is never a good situation for a Chaos Warrior. So at the end of the game, Demons managed to score 1,070 points, and the Chaos pulled out 1,230. And so that one Dragon Ogre surviving was the difference between this game being a draw or a Chaos victory. Some notes: the Spirit Leech that couldn't. I tried to set up a lot with the Doom and Darknesses. I realized that halfway through that he could use his General's leadership for the test on the Spirit Leech, and that's when I started switching my attention to the Demon Prince getting Doom and Darkness. And then even when I did pull that off, I couldn't get anything as far as Spirit Leeching. It drew the Dispel Scroll, and then I just failed to cast it or dispelled it the rest of the game. So what would have been an easy out against his Demon Prince never happened. And one of the key things I learned from this game, which I'm not used to taking with my demons here, is test. Test is what killed a demon army. You should really never be in a losing situation. I took a lot of leadership tests this game, and for that I suffered a lot of extra, unstable wounds, and then my Soul Grinder, almost 300 points of Soul Grinder just went pop, which was absolutely disgusting. He was about as useful as a butt plug and an ear canal. I really, thank you, Mr. Soul Grinder. Had he stay alive and not roll those double sixes, he definitely probably wouldn't have died. And then those would have been, 200 plus points back in my favor. But that's when you roll dice and you take tests. That's what happens. And yeah, so the Dragon Ogre staying alive and the Soul Grinder going pop were definitely 2 highlights of this game. And he went. I knew it was a bad idea taking him into the Iron Guts. The ogres with great weapons, but I just figured I already weakened the unit enough. I could make the champion take the initiative test. I'd get those auto hits. I'd kill him, and then I should be able to win that combat and break him. But it never happened. And that's what happens when you roll dice. So a victory to the Warriors of Chaos. Thank you very much for checking in, and thanks for watching.